Hi, weenuses. Hello, everyone. If you are not used to being called a weenus, welcome. If it's apparently your first time on this channel, it's me, Haley Z. For those of you guys that don't know me, I'm a therapist, as the title slash my name on YouTube indicates, and I do love to talk a lot about nerd shit. I do love to talk about indie animation, such as the type here on YouTube, and I always am here to talk about mental health. Pretty much every one of my videos is all about mental health, psychology in some manner, and if I ever get the opportunity to weave in nerd shit, I love doing that. So here we are today. So today we're going to be talking about the most recent Murder Drones episode, and girl, do I have thoughts? I do have some thoughts. However, even though I have a mixed opinion on the episode itself, I also have a couple of themes that I saw popping up that I would love to talk a little bit more about. So also, not first thing, but like additional thing real quick. Please excuse the fact that I look like I'm melting. I am, so that's why. Anyways, back to the episode. So let me give first my overall thoughts on the episode. Typically, when I am talking about any media franchise, whether it is the franchise as a whole or an episode as a whole, I do like to give just my not typical person, but my non-therapist, just run-of-the-mill thoughts on the episode. So with this episode, I'm just going to be really honest, y'all. It was not my favorite. And this is not a knock against, obviously, the creator, the voice actors, the animators. It was just a victim of circumstance. My understanding is that there was a deadline that had to be met, which happens. And that's okay. But the episode was just a very quick, fun romp that didn't really solve a lot of our questions and didn't really tie up any loose ends. For example, a loose end that I would have wanted to see tied up is Nori and Uzi's relationship. So Uzi's relationship with her mother and how she came out, not Newsy, oh my God, you guys, I'm getting out of myself. How Nori came out in the last few episodes as this really bombastic character, but it just felt like there wasn't enough done with her in terms of her interfacing with Uzi. I thought it was really cute when she was like, "Get him, babe," or whatever she said. And it honestly brought a little tear to my eye because I was like, I miss my mom. And something that I will talk someday about on this channel, just side note, is that about my mom's death. I lost my mom last year. So yeah, that was cute for me. Yeah, that was kind of confusing. This is kind of a nitpick, but I was like, every 5 seconds, I was like, okay, so did that person die? Like, do they die? Is he dead? Is she dead? And then these bitches are all alive at the end. So I'm like, okay, cool. And it's funny and it's interesting. And I get it that it's trippy because, for example, Sin or the Absolute Solver is kind of like a shapeshifter and a trickster. So I get it that that's part of it, is when you're witnessing these fight scenes, it's like, oh, holy shit, you thought that, but psych, essentially. So that's fine. And then, yeah, I think just like Jay and V coming back, I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir, preaching to the choir right now. You guys get it. It's like, we got great action. We always get top tier animation and voice acting skills. That's never in question. But the story is just, it's like, oh my God, you guys are really ending it on this. So anyways, I'm not here to fully criticize the episode so much as I am to talk about these two themes that I saw come up, but I still thought it was worthwhile to give you my opinion on the episode. So I'm trying to think. I did write down some notes, so I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. That was kind of it. I did think it was so cute. Before we get into the bigger themes that I saw, I also did think it was really cute when Uzi asked En if they were dating. And this moment to me harkens back to the video that I made about neurodivergence in Murder Drones and how Uzi may potentially show signs of autism and En may potentially show signs of ADHD. And this to me was a very neurodivergent coded moment where two people have to set the expectations around a relationship in a way that maybe a neurotypical person might not. And I'm not saying that neurotypical people, by the way, I am not at all saying that neurotypical people don't ever say these kinds of things or have these kinds of conversations. But to me, in the context of so many of us talking about neurodivergence in Murder Drones, and especially with so many of us fans being neurodivergent ourselves, I just thought that it was a cute moment. And in a way, I'm choosing to overread into it as almost a nod to those of us who are a little bit more challenged at understanding social cues and relational cues. So I thought that was really cute. So let's talk a little bit about these two psychological themes that I saw popping up in this episode. Again, I probably should have said this at the beginning, but everything that I do and say really isn't that serious, you guys. But I do think that media is always worth looking at for the themes that it can provide, because so many of these are so applicable to our lives. And I do think that even though Murder Drones is, I mean, nobody that is watching this video or making this video, meaning myself, I don't know if I'm acting like, what? Who else is here? Even though Murder Drones is obviously so far from most of our human realities, there are still themes that come up that are really important. So the first theme that I saw come up that has arguably been going on in the background this whole time is the impact of trauma, and how trauma doesn't really ever leave. It just kind of gets transferred into other people. And the reason I bring this up is because obviously Uzi at the end of this episode eats the absolute solver. She ate that, she ate that. And we see at the very end that the absolute solver is still alive, involved. It's still essentially a part of her. And that is obviously a very destructive force, similar to trauma. And so to me, the thing I thought when I was watching that episode is like, oh my God, this horrible thing that has wreaked so much havoc, it may not necessarily wreak as much havoc in the future. We don't know, because we can't really know, because the series is ending. And it may be defeated in its old form, but it still persists. And to me, this is so reminiscent of how you can certainly heal trauma for yourself. It can be really hard. You can still heal trauma for yourself, but there's a part of you that will always recognize that it's there, or that it was there. And I'm not trying to say this to be a doomer, by the way. I really do think we can all make leaps and bounds with trauma recovery, but I'm just saying it's hard. And the other piece of it too, unfortunately, is that trauma gets passed around from person to person. So this absolute solver has been around for God knows how long. It dealt with sin. It's now been transferred to Uzi. Who knows where it goes after that? And it's reminiscent of generational trauma. So it's reminiscent of the fact that we have our grandparents and our great-grandparents who went through what they did, and then did repeated patterns with our parents, who repeated patterns with us. And it's obviously a very different mechanism than one of us swallowing something. Like, we're not swallowing an absolute solver, but we're still taking that on, and it's taking a different form with us. And this brings up a whole other conversation about, like, how do we stop trauma and how do we not repeat those patterns, but still, different video, different day, right? But I still thought that was perhaps what this was trying to communicate in this episode. The second thing that came up was this idea that people who are maybe in oppressed groups or disadvantaged groups may decide to join the winning side, even though the winning side is arguably very uncouth, not demure, not mindful, or just straight up evil. And it's because it's a protective factor, right? It's like, well, you want to be on the winning side because it doesn't matter how mean or how evil they are. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and you want to be protected above all else. And this is we see this get played out all the time in real life, because people will ostensibly work against their own interests all the time because they don't want to be part of that out group, and they don't want to be trampled on. They would rather do the trampling. And I don't think, by the way, that this comes from like an inherently evil awful place in most situations. Sometimes it really is just desperation. It's like, look, I've been tired of being beaten down. I've been tired of being in this particular role. So fuck it. I'm just going to take the winning side, even though the winning side's evil, and just go for it so that I'm not left in the dust, so that I'm not trampled anymore. And so obviously Jay was on this mindset, and she was trying to get V to be on that mindset too. So I was like, damn, interesting commentary. Anyways, so those are the two themes that I was seeing pop up. Let me know if y'all interpreted these things the same way. And additionally, just let me know your thoughts on the episode in general and how you're coping with the end of this beautiful, masterful series. Truly, like, for all my criticisms that I've ever had about the show or about this episode feeling rushed and all that, I nonetheless have such a tremendous amount of respect for Liam Vickers. I think he's hilarious. I think that to date, everything that he's put out has been gold, and the characters are just lovable and lovely and so interesting. And I do think that even though Murder Drones was never probably meant to be a show that sparked a ton of socio-psychological discourse, it nonetheless delivered, and I think it did a wonderful job. So I hope you enjoyed this quick vid. Sorry that I didn't include any footage or anything like that. Frankly, you guys, I have been struggling with motivation, as I've probably talked about a couple times on my channel. Hope you don't get sick of me hearing me saying it. I have been struggling with motivation to make videos, and it sucks because I just love these properties that I talk about. I love psychology. I have a thriving private practice outside of this channel that I'm so dedicated to. But for some reason, I guess just putting all of the work together to make some of these videos can be hard sometimes. So definitely just know that my heart when I make these videos is always in it. Regardless of how tired or how unmotivated I am, I always want to be here, and I always want to deliver, or start rather, an interesting conversation. So that's it for me today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all soon. Okay, bye.